What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about where we are in the gaming year. It's been a little while since we've done something like this. I feel it makes sense to do it on this channel, but kind of just to, recap what we've been doing, right? And look forward. And look, actually, over the next couple months, and this is really where I want to go with this video, it dries out considerably. Now, let me be clear. That is not a big deal. I've told some friends that, and they say, well, Alex, that's not necessarily a bad thing. No, it's not. Trust me, it is not. We have had quite a year so far. You look back at last year. I mean, last year was a massive, massive year that could be remembered for a long time, honestly. But this year started pretty hot and heavy. You think of January, February, March. We got both, because sometimes you'll get quality and not quantity, and sometimes you'll get quantity, right? But you won't get quality. I believe that, firstly, we've been in the midst of maybe a good 12 to 15 months of both. And I think that continued this year. I think so far from January on, from the Infinite Wealths of the world, or Persona. I mean, we got a lot of JRPGs, right? Persona, Infinite Wealth, Final Fantasy. But you got games like Banishers, you got Dragon's Dogma, you got Rise of the Ronin. We still had both. You had a lot of games, the quantity, right? Every freaking week there's been games. And you also had the quality. Now, not everywhere. I mean, there has been, for me, Skull and Bones and Suicide Squad, obviously, are the two that really stand out. But for every one of them, you get a Helldivers, right? So, they really not only evened out, but they were vastly overpowered by the good. So you had quality and quantity. Over the next couple months, I think it really shifts to quality. Now, it's hard to know for sure, right? Because we're not there yet, but it's going to, I think, be more quality over quantity, if anything, because, my personal tastes are not going to be like everybody's. However, I feel, to the average gamer, I do try more games than most. For me, maybe it's because I'm trying to simplify, over the next couple months, because we just went through a freaking gauntlet. April and May, pretty dead. April's got Stellar Blade to me, and May has Hellblade. Now, I know there's other games in there. I think Sandland is one of them too, right? So there are some even noticeable names in there, but generally, again, even just from my casual observation of it, not too much. June, Elden Ring's DLC, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Hades 2 is supposed to come out in early access over the next 2 or 3 months, so that. But if we're being honest, and I've even said this to some friends of mine, you project where the rest of the year is going. I think it kind of stays, the trend probably stays the same. You think of the big games, even the rumored, big games that could come in the fall. Now, yes, there are things that can be filled in, right? Because you have Summer Game Fest, you'll have a PlayStation event, you'll have an Xbox event, you'll have Ubisoft. We will have more than what I'm about to say. But you think of some of the bigger games, and you think of Avowed. Now, is Avowed going to be a bad game? I personally don't think so. I think it's going to be quite good. Is it massive, enormous? Well, debatable, I guess you could say, to be fair, right? But I personally don't think it's going to be the biggest thing of all time. It might be, say, better than a Starfield, but I don't think it would be bigger than a Starfield, right? Indiana Jones, does that make it to December? Because I think that would be kind of asking a lot. Maybe it does, and that would be pretty big. Ubisoft, for some reason, is going to kind of dominate the fall, right, with Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Red. Now, that's if Assassin's Creed actually comes out, which, again, I think it will, but that's a strange world, right? Ubisoft having two big hitters to kind of dominate maybe the fall. You look at Sony, really, they don't have much in terms of their own stuff. We've talked about that before, right? Maybe Silent Hill 2 Remake. I mean, look, could we go through and probably come up with a good 10, 15, in which maybe we can do that actually in a separate video. There are games coming. There's games coming in April, May, June. There's games coming over the summer. There's games September through December. There's always games September through December. I just feel what we've gone through. You think about this past year, October was death's row. It was insane, the games of October. And honestly, November was just as bad. Bad in a good way. Bad in terms of the quality and the quantity, because there were so many. And again, they really kept that going throughout this year. February didn't let up. March didn't let up. In fact, March didn't let up so much that they had multiple games like Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma released on the same freaking day, right? So we've really, I think, been... okay, I don't want to say spoiled. If you say spoiled, it's has every game been good? Are all games for everybody? No, right? So different people probably have not been quote-unquote spoiled. But we've been living in a pretty... Yes, there's been bad things. There's been terrible things, live service and certain stuff. I'm not a big fan of some of these things, right? But there's been a lot of great games, and there's been just a lot of them over the last, like I said, maybe 12 plus months. I think this next stretch is going to be a whole lot quieter. Like I said, just for me, just my own subjective opinion. April is really Stellar Blade. May is Hellblade. June, for me would be, I guess, Killer Clowns and Elden Ring. I don't want to forget. I think there's one other in June, but I'm not looking at a calendar right now. There might be one or two others I'm forgetting about. And then, like I said, the fall, those games I listed, they're pretty good, but some of them might be great, some of them might be bad. So you're not going to hit all 10 for 10, right? Will there be others that I didn't mention? Of course there will, but to be honest, compared to last year, I don't think there'll be as many. And I don't think they'll be as big. I think in a really weird, kind of world, you could be going into the fall saying that Elden Ring's DLC, which is a testament to how good Elden Ring was, right, how big it was, but you could say going into the fall that Elden Ring's DLC is either the game to beat, or if you don't want it, because that's more subjective, right, your own game of the year versus mine or whatever, Elden Ring's DLC might legitimately be the biggest game of the year in going past June. You might be going into the summer, going into the fall, Star Wars, Assassin's Creed, all these games, and saying Elden Ring, in terms of sales and just the money that game printed, the DLC printed, that's the game to beat. And that's kind of wild. Honestly, it's kind of wild. 2 years after it comes out, but it's wild that this year, Dragon's Dogma's done well. A couple of the games from January on have done. I guess Helldivers is maybe the most wildly successful thing that's happened so far, but I could see a world where Elden Ring's DLC is the thing in this year. That's just kind of weird to me. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I personally really loved Elden Ring, but it is kind of weird to say, 2024 might be defined by Helldivers 2 coming out of nowhere to some people at least, right? And then Elden Ring's DLC. And then there's some other games here and there. Whereas past years, I think, have just been a bit more full. Again, is that a big deal? You're going to have these years. And I think, some people haven't really experienced these years, right? If you've come up in the last few years of gaming, you might not, maybe you don't remember, maybe you just haven't lived through it. There is some dead years. You think of 2020 was a pretty packed year, but then 2021 was pretty dead. 2022 picked it back up. So there's been some down years. Even in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, you can think of a couple down ones. I do believe, again, does that mean there's no games coming out? No. Does it mean there's no great games coming out? No. But this is, I think, a down year. And I think we'll be probably saying that at the end, especially, and again, it's hard to predict this fully, you think about 2025 with what's going to come out, and you think of GTA, okay? That's obviously the first one. And you cannot beat the year that GTA comes out in, right? Literally impossible. But there's other games in 2025. In fact, next year is, I think, the year of quality, because I think you're going to have just a lot of really amazing games, and you're also going to have a large quantity of very high-quality games. And I think maybe on a bigger scale, because when you talk about GTA, even to Elden Ring's year, right, 2 years ago, that was the same kind of thing. High-quality games, actually quite a few of them, so quantity as well. I don't know if you'll be able to beat 2025. That's looking forward, and we don't know all these things fully, but we'll see what happens. I just kind of wanted to make a video, just talking about my thoughts. I'm fine with it. I look at this as a time where, hey, I have a lot of old games. I got my third channel, games of yesteryear, to replay, maybe play for the first time. I am totally cool with there being 3 weeks in between big release. Right now, this is paradise because I can relax, I can slow down a little bit, and I can play whatever I want, and then play Stellar Blade, relax again for a few weeks, I guess, play Hellblade, relax for a few more weeks. I'm okay with that. Do I prefer games to come out all the time? Yeah, that's a fun experience too. I think there's a need to balance, so I'm kind of excited for a little bit more of a dead period. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe, again, I don't speak for everybody, so definitely want to hear from you. Thank you as always for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next one.